to tell you to stand in our church with our pastor sitting all the time. We just sit constantly because we don't want to make her feel bad because she can't sit up. So please stand whenever you want to, actually. It's fine with me. So when I was getting ready for this message today, going back, I started thinking about what is going on right now. The kids are going back to school, are they not? Going back to either preschool or kindergarten or whatever grade, junior high, high school. And then we have all of those that graduated that are going back. They're going back to college. Some are going back to get a job. They're going back to something, which made me think about Job. Here in just a few short verses, this is a man who had everything, and he lost it. All of his property, his children, gone. All because Satan was challenging God with Job. Satan said, if we take everything away from Job, he will deny you. Well, I got to admit, I've not read the whole book of Job. I've read bits and pieces of it, obviously trying to get ready for my messages today. And I snuck to the back. I wanted to read the end. How did it really end? Well, I'll read you the end. Anyway, part of it. Then the Lord changed Job's fortune when he prayed for his friends, and the Lord doubled all Job's earlier possessions. All his brothers, sisters, and acquaintances came to him and ate food with him in his house. They comforted and consoled him, concerning all the disaster the Lord had brought on him, and each one gave him a quishta, which I will tell you that's a monetary unit, and a gold ring. Then the Lord blessed Job's latter days more than his former ones. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He named one Jemimah, a second Kisa, and the third Kerenhak. No woman in all the land were as beautiful as Job's daughters, and their father gave an inheritance to them along with their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years, saw 4 generations of his children. Then Job died old and satisfied. So Job never gave up on God, never denied God. In fact, when I was looking through this, at one point after all this happened, Job was cursing himself in the day that he was born. But Job had to go back. He had to go back and start over again. He had to defend what had happened to him. In fact, when I read in here, it said that he said to these 2 men who kept trying to talk him into blaming God, he kept saying, where does it say that everything has to be wonderful, that God has to give us wonderful things? Where does it say that? Always defending God. So in our lives, don't we go back a lot? Kids are going back to school, but don't we go back? I'll give you an example. I've been at Mercy 42 years. And 27 years ago, I moved to the department that I'm in now, which is the Purchasing Accounts Payable Department. Well, I had been 15 years in an insurance department, and after being there 13 years, to which I had worked almost every section of the insurance department you could think of, was trained by Mercy. I went to school to be a secretary, and here I am filing insurance claims. We got ourselves a supervisor. Young spunk out of college. Thought he knew everything.
I got a son like that.
Didn't have a degree because he decided he wanted to get a job. The school expenses were costing. So we got the great honor of having him in our department. Now at the time we got him, there were several of us that had longevity in that department. Of course, I was 13. I had another gal that was over 16. Well, he had an envious heart. He was extremely jealous of all of us that knew so much. You just can't come into a place of work and take over and think you have the answers, because it doesn't always work that way. In fact, it never works that way. I work in a hospital that's run by the Mount Mercy nurses, or nuns, excuse me. And we have a different philosophy. We're not a facility that we want to only have people in there that have money. Well, he got it into his head that we were going to get really tough on people. We were going to make them pay their bills. I even so much heard him tell an older gentleman on the phone, if you have a dog, sell your dog. Not the mercy touch that I was used to. And he was extremely jealous of me because I knew so much, and because I knew so much, people who would come in, they came to me. Now, I never bragged about it. There's no reason he should have been jealous of me. I was perfectly willing to tell him and teach him all the things he wanted to learn. But this young spunk out of college think he had all the answers. He didn't need some old lady to tell him what to do, someone who didn't go to college. So he continued to work at all of us longevity people to get rid of us. Just a little bit at a time, he'd pick at us and pick at us and pick at us, till 4 of them left. Then he started on me. See, I had a young family at home. My husband wasn't making much money. I wasn't going to leave. And eventually I went to the doctor, and the doctor said to me, Terry, I'm going to be really honest with you. If you continue to work under this man, you will die. He's too stressed on you. You're getting sick. The stress is very, very hard on you. I'm telling you, if you continue to stay there, bad things will happen to you. So that was my opening. That was my window where I didn't know it at the time, but God was speaking to me saying, listen to this person. So with great luck and great fortune and great friends at Mercy, I had 3 directors that told me about this job in the purchasing department and that I would be great for this job. So I decided to apply for it. Even though I loved working in insurance and I loved the people that came in, I knew I needed to do what was best for my family. So I took this job, but in order to take this job, I had to go back. I had to take a cut in pay. You know, that's tough. But here I am 27 years later, still in that same department. September 29th, I'll get it right, I retired. I retire with a pension, and because of that pension, I am able to retire. So, and I have a whole new life starting. It's not retiring to do nothing. I'm retiring to spread the word of God. So I had to go back. I had to make some tough decisions to go back to move forward. And that's what God wanted me to do. And He gave me the right people at the right time to tell me that, for me to listen. Now, there's all kinds of examples of going back. Yesterday I went to my niece's bridal shower in Sheffield, Iowa. And as her mother was standing up and telling a little story about Leslie, it reminded me of the fact that here was this girl from Hampton, Iowa, wanted to go to the big city when she graduated, went to Chicago. She had this idea of what she wanted to do in college. She got there, she went to college, and then she realized this college was kind of expensive. So she decided to take on a job. So she became a nanny. From the nanny, she quit school because she loved being a nanny, taking care of children. And then she came home to her own roots to visit and ran into an old boyfriend in high school, who at the time was divorced with 2 children. And they fell in love. So she left the big city to move back to Sheffield and Hampton, Iowa, to be with her childhood sweetheart, and they're getting married. And she went back. She went back to move forward in her life. Now, in the church, when I say going back, I'm thinking about when I was a little girl attending church. I don't know about you guys, but when I came in this morning, I could hear you all talking and laughing, and the kids were talking, and you know, you're all just like celebrating worship, and you're celebrating being here. I can tell you, when I went to church, you walked in that church door and you never said a word. It was total silence until the organist started playing, and then you didn't talk loud. I can remember my dad saying, "Shh, you're supposed to be worshiping the Lord. You're supposed to show reverence." Okay, I get that part. I get that. But in order for our church to move forward, we had to go back to why we were doing that and decide, was that the way that our church really should be? Is that what Jesus wants us to do? Yes, we want to honor him. Yes, we want to show reverence. But if we want to move forward, we have to move forward and be happy, and that's what Jesus wants us to do, right? He wants us to enjoy our life, wants us to fellowship. So our church has very much moved forward. And that's why I love our church so much. You know, there are times Pastor and I have to get up and we have to actually say good morning for people to stop talking, and then they continue to talk, and we just keep talking over them. But that's what it's all about. You know, it really is. It's fellowship. You know, I went back to church years ago, but that's what I did. I went back to church. I didn't go back to worship. I just went back to show up in church and flip the pages to where we're going to sing hymns, get through the service, and out the door I go. I've done my job. Not anymore. I look forward to worship so much. I look forward to seeing people in my church I haven't seen in a week or maybe longer. I look forward to hearing their stories about family coming, family that have been there. Love that. And there's always sadness in church too. We have family members that are not doing so well, or they're sick, or we need to pray for them. But that's okay, because I pray for them. I feel good about that. Now, the best example I can think of somebody going back is the one we all know, Jesus. Think about this. Jesus had to go back. He had to be crucified for all of us to move forward. He had to be crucified and then come back, resurrected. Yes, God is alive. So that we all can move forward. Jesus came to teach us that there is another life. That God is not dead. You know, the Bible teaches us, from dust you came, to dust you will return. But then from that dust, we reach the kingdom of heaven. So, Jesus' return to us is an example of what happens to us when we go back. Because when we go back, we will be looking forward to the kingdom of heaven and being with God and Jesus and all of our family and friends who are already there waiting with open arms. So when someone says they're going back and it sounds like they're in a place where it's tough for them, remind them, going back is moving forward, which is what Jesus wants us all to do. Amen. Will you please join me in the prayer of confession as printed in your bulletin?